Children, let's read about the story of Amrita, Module 3. The topic is conservation of forest. Module, we are going to learn about the forest conservation, Chipko movement, afforestation, Apico movement, social forestry, Van Mahotsav, and Forest Man of India. At the end of this module, the students will be able to understand the need of forest conservation. They will be able to know about the various movements and the contribution of the personalities who were associated with the conservation of forest or trees in India. Identify the aims of different movement. They will able to have a gist of other environmental activities and recognize the Forest Man of India and his contribution. Forest conservation. Conservation is a process of using any resource in such a way that it can last long. Forest conservation is the practice of planning and maintaining forested areas for the benefit and sustainability of future generations. Chipko movement. In the 1970s, an organized resistance to the destruction of forests spread throughout India and came to be known as the Chipko movement. The name of the movement comes from the word embrace, as the villagers hugged the trees and prevented the contractors from felling them. In Hindi, Chipko literally means stick, and people started sticking to trees when it was being cut. Environmentalist who initiated the Chipko movement was Sundarlal Bahuguna. He has been always fighting for the preservation of forests in the Himalayas. He is also known for coining the Chipko slogan, "Ecology is permanent economy." The main aim of Chipko movement is to preserve the forest and to plant the trees in forest. The practice of planting trees is known as afforestation. Apico movement. The southern version of Chipko movement is 3 decades old. The famous Chipko Andolan inspired the villagers of the Uttar Kannada district of Karnataka province in southern India to launch a similar movement to save their forest. The movement was started by Pandurang Hegde in September 1983 at Salkani. This Andolan gave birth to a new awareness all over southern India. The aim of the Apico movement is to protect the forest against the felling and commercialization of genetic forest and the destruction of traditional livelihood. Forestry aims at raising plantations by the common man to meet the growing demand for timber, fuel wood, fodder, etc., thereby reducing the pressure on the traditional forest area. The National Commission on Agriculture, Government of India, first used the term social forestry in 1976. It was then that India embarked on a social forestry project with the aim of taking the pressure off the forest and making use of all unused and fallow land. The aim of social forestry movement under social forestry, trees were to be planted in and around agricultural fields, along railway lines and roadsides, river and canal banks, in village common land, government waste land, and panchayat land. Dietrich Brandes was a German forest expert who was called for advice by the Britishers and was made the first Inspector General of Forests in India. He founded the Imperial Forest Research Institute at Dehradun in 1906. He introduced new system of social forestry. Van Mahotsav is an annual one-week tree planting festival of India, occupying a week in the month of July. During this event, millions of trees are planted. Lal Maneklal Munshi. Van Mahotsav was initiated in 1950 by Kanhaiya Lal Maneklal Munshi, and then Union Minister for Agriculture and Food, to create an enthusiasm in the mind of the countrymen for the conservation of forest and planting of trees. Of Van Mahotsav are providing fuel, increase production of fruits and add to the potential food resources of the country, help creation of shelter belts around agricultural fields to increase their productivity, provide fodder leaves for cattle to receive intensity of grazing over reserve forest, provide shade and ornamental trees for the landscape, provide small poles and timber for agricultural implements, house construction and fencing, help conservation of soil and prevent further deterioration of soil fertility, inculcate tree consciousness and love of trees amongst the people. Environmental movements are Save Silent Valley movement in the Palakkad district of Kerala, Jangal Bachao Andolan, Singhbhum district of Bihar, Narmada Bachao Andolan, Narmada Valley, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Tehri Dam conflict, Bhagirathi River near Tehri in Uttarakhand, Arbor Day every year on the last Friday in April, and it has been celebrated in United States. World Environment Day celebrated on 5 June every year worldwide. International Day of Forest celebrated on 21st day of March. The Forest Man of India. Jadav Payeng, who is also popularly known as Molai Payeng. Molai is a small village in Assam. So that's why he is also known as Molai Payeng. Earned his name as the Forest Man of India by spending 30 years of his life planting around 40 million trees to create a real man-made forest. Over the course of several decades, he has planted and tended trees on a sandbar of the river Brahmaputra, turning it into a forest reserve. 65-year-old Jadav Payeng was conferred the title the Forest Man in Delhi by the Government of India on World Earth Day in 2010. Jadav Molai Payeng, he is a lone Indian man who has planted a 1,360 acre forest all by himself to save wildlife. He planted trees every day for 35 years. And now these forests have become the houses of Bengal tigers, rhinoceros, over 100 deer and rabbits, and even the home to elephants and varieties of birds. Just have a quick look on the summary. Conservation is a process of using any resource in such a way that it can last long. The name of the Chipko movement comes from the word embrace, as the villagers hugged the trees and prevented the contractors from felling them. The practice of planting trees is known as afforestation. The Apiko movement was started by Pandurang Hegde in September 1983 at Salkani. Social forestry aims at raising plantations by the common man to meet the growing demand for wood. Van Mahotsava was initiated in 1950 by K.M. Munshi to create an enthusiasm in the mind of the countrymen for the conservation of forest and planting of trees. Jadav Payeng, who earned his name as the Forest Man of India by spending 30 years of his life planting around 40 million trees to create a real man-made forest. Time for a small quiz. What do you mean by the term conservation? Ecology is the permanent economy. Who coined this slogan? Which movement is the southern version of the Chipko movement? Who was the founder of the Imperial Forest Research Institute at Dehradun? What is the purpose of introducing One Mahotsava program by K. M. Munshi, who is known as the Forest Man of India? Which week is celebrated as the Planting Festival of India? Now think of these questions from the above slides. Thanks for learning, children. Have a great day ahead.